Hi, today I want to talk about weaving. Weaving is a design technique that basically it's like the process of interlacing strips or strands of different materials together to create a pattern that it creates interest, and then it also can be like a sculptural form that you can add to a design. What I like about it is that it makes you unique and it makes the design unique. So using different types of weavings can be really fun to a design. What I have today that we're going to add a weaving to is basically a dominated foliage design. We have lots of different textures and varieties of foliage that create interest in the design. We also have some beautiful orange tulips and some kalanchoes, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I wanted to talk about the weaving itself. And when I talk about a symmetrical weaving, this is where it is done. It's symmetrical. If you cut it in half, then we have symmetry on both sides. It's a mirrored image on both sides. Oftentimes we see where we take a weaving and we'll start and put all the stems together at the bottom, and then we'll weave it all the way to the top. And that gives us then a smaller, it kind of tapers off to the end. With our symmetrical, what I want to be able to do is have that broad foliage weaving in the very center, and then it tapers down to each end, and each end has stems that go right into the floral foam in our design. So it takes water properly, and that it gives us that longevity that we want with the design itself. So how we start this is simply by taking our lily grass, and I like using lily grass just because it has a large form to it, and we're just going to lay it out opposite. So I have ends, cut ends at both ends and tapered ends at each end, so that it gives me that ability then to go back and forth through the design. And I want 5 pieces. Here I have one that's a little bit short. So we're going to start with 5. And don't worry that they're not all lined up. We're going to make them line up. So I have just a little bit of tape that I want to take to that very center. And what's really kind of fun about this is that you can do weavings with all sorts of materials. It's unlimited. It's unlimited. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm just going to lay these all out so I have pretty much the same end points. We're going to trim them when we get to that point, but I want to line them all straight up. And let me just tape this down so that you can see what I've done. So they're all lined up to each other, and we're just going to use the lily grass. As you see, I just used the lily grass stem itself to weave it through. So it doesn't have, we're not adding an additional material. So as long as I've got that into the center, I'm going to take this first one on the outside edge, and I'm just going to bend it and just kind of fold it so I have a crease, and go over, under the other lily grass stems. Over, under. I'm going to crease this again, come back across, go over, under. And it's just a pattern that you're going to create. And we'll do this all the way through. So once I get this one side done, I will show you the pattern. Over, under. And it's just a matter of keeping that symmetry going. Crease, over, under. And just finish that down to the very end. So we've got that all the way through. As long as your pattern is consistent, I'm just going to take a little bit of U-glue, and I'm just going to kind of stick all those together. So I want you to kind of see the pattern. So we go over, under, all the way through. Actually, we're going to bring this one up just a little bit, and then come back and catch that. So the great thing about U-glue is that you can stretch it to catch that end, so it all stays together. And I'm just going to take that very tip of it and just wrap it around. And then we'll do the same to the same side. So I'm going to fold, go over, under. And once you get the pattern going, it becomes a piece of cake. You could do this with bullion, you could do it with yarn, you could do it with all kinds of strings, many different things. I've even done it with fairy lights. You can do whatever you want, which is really kind of fun. It just is down to what kind of a detail do you want to add to your design, and that's what it is. It just makes everything different than everybody else. We all do the same type of design styles and the design techniques, and it's up to you to create that interest when it comes to creating your own design work. What are you doing that creates that signature look that makes this, when you look at it and say, ah, I know who made that, that's made by so-and-so, just because it has that particular look. As you can see, I just repeated that to the other side, and it just gives us that domination. So then I'm going to just do the same thing with U-glue to this side, gather it all up so it's all together, everybody's stuck, because I don't want to lose that end. And I'm just going to take my U-glue and just kind of pull it so it wraps all the way around, pull our tape off. So you can see we've got our weaving that goes all the way across. I'm also going to take and just trim this to a point so I can insert it nicely into my foam. Again, just making sure that everything is bound together with a little bit of U-glue. Sometimes it has a mind of its own. Give it to a little bit of a point. And then come over here to our design and just insert it into the foam directly. So it has some great interest. Down at the base, what I have down here is just some crushed glass, which just gives us a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of detail that we see. The basing techniques, and basing is anything that covers your foam. I've got a beautiful gathering of and groupings of kalanchoe. I've got some variegated foliage to create interest. Our line movements are created with our foxtail, a little bit of pyracantha, and again our tulips give us that beautiful framework design. The fatsia leaves down at the very base are broad and gives us just that strength that we needed down at the very base. But creating that dimension, but it's accented then with our beautiful weaving that comes across the center that kind of gives us a little bit of veiling, which just is a see-through technique that you can see through it and just see our beautiful focal area that's created right down at the very base of our container. Again, our weaving just creates interest, and it's just really kind of a fun way to add a great detail to your design.